it's April Garwood from Banana Moon Studio. In this video, I will be showing you how to crochet the Mum Blanket Square, which is part of my Fall Feels crochet along and part of the Fall Feels throw blanket. For more details on the crochet along, you can look in the description for a link where you can find all the information. For the Mum Crochet Square, you're going to need either the free pattern or the PDF. The free pattern's on my blog. The PDF can be purchased on Ravelry. You'll need a size J crochet hook, and then I am using Cascade Yarns Pacific, which is an acrylic and wool blend worsted weight yarn. If you're not going to use Cascade Pacific, then you'll need to choose a different worsted weight yarn. So the Mum Square begins with a magic circle. If you have a preferred way of starting circles, you can use a different method, but this is the way that I like to start circles. So I'll be doing that. It's important that you leave at least a 6-inch tail when you use the magic circle method. So to make a magic circle, I start with my yarn end here, and I leave plenty of end, wrap it around 2 fingers so the tail's coming off the front and the working yarn is coming off the back of my fingers. And then I'll pull that off, place my hook through that loop. I'm going to tighten it a little bit, and then I'll grab the working yarn and pull it through that loop, and then I'll chain 1. And that's the circle I'll start with. So round 1 starts with chain 2, which does not count as a stitch, and 12 double crochet in the circle. Then we'll pull the tail to close the center and join with a slip stitch. So I already chained 1 to secure my loop, so here is my chain 2, and then I'll yarn over and place 12 double crochet stitches. Notice I'm working over both of these strands, and that's important. So there's 1, 2, and I'll make a total of 12 working over both of these strands. That should be 12. I'm going to count to be sure. That's my chain 2 right there. There is my first stitch is right here. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. All right, now when it says pull tail to close center, this is your tail here. You want to make sure that this is at least 6 inches long, because if you cut it off short right here, your center is going to come undone. You need to leave this end long, and then you need to weave it in when you're finished. So I will pull this, and you can see how it's closing up the center. You don't need to pull it really hard. You want to pull it snug. One important thing about Magic Circle, if you're using a yarn that is not plied, you can see how this yarn has multiple plies in it. But if your yarn is a single ply, you will want to add some extra twist to your tail before you pull it, because single ply yarn is not very strong and you can pull it apart if you pull the center closed. So that's important to keep in mind. Okay, and then we are going to join to the first stitch with a slip stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Counting backwards can help me make sure that I'm working into the right spot here and not into one of my chains. So there is my slip stitch. I pull through the stitch and through this loop, and that is my slip stitch to join. In round 2, I will chain 1, single crochet in the first stitch, and then I will chain 1, single crochet in the next stitch, and repeat that around. So chain 1, single crochet in the same place that you put that joining slip stitch. And then I'll chain one, and I'm going to single crochet in each stitch around with a single crochet, or I'm sorry, with a chain in between them. All right, here I've placed a single crochet in my last stitch. This right here might look like a stitch. This is actually your joining slip stitch that you did at the end of the first round. So we won't place one here. If you are feeling unsure, you can count backwards and see how many stitches you've done. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12 stitches. And then so now that I have done a single crochet in every stitch, I'll chain one, and then I'm going to slip stitch in my first stitch, which, remember, this is that joining slip stitch, and then this right here is the chain one that we did at the start of this round. So the first stitch is right here, and you'll slip stitch there. To begin round 3, we'll slip stitch, chain 1, and single crochet in the first chain space. Then we'll chain 2, single crochet in the next chain space, and repeat that around. So my first chain space is going to be right here. I will slip stitch, chain 1, and single crochet all in that same place. And then I will chain 2, and I'm going to be putting a single crochet in each chain space around. That means that you'll be skipping the stitches and just working in the chain spaces. So here's the next stitch, here's the next chain, so I'll go under that for the next single crochet, and I'll repeat that around. That was putting a single crochet in the last chain space. So if you'll look here, our very last stitch is here, and then we have the joining slip stitch, and here we have, well, actually, I take that back. I think these are both slip stitches because we had a slip stitch to join, and then we had a slip stitch in that first chain space. And here's our chain 1, and here's our first stitch. Okay, so I've done the last single of this round. Now I'll do a chain 2, and then I will slip stitch in the first stitch to join. And that finishes round 3. So round 4, we'll begin just like the last one. We'll slip stitch, chain 1, and single crochet in the first chain space. And then we're going to chain 3 and single crochet in the next chain space. So this round is very similar to the one before, except we're going to be doing a chain 3 each time. And actually our next 2 rounds after this are going to be the same, except we just are increasing that chain space by 1 each time. Okay, so we'll find the first chain space, which is right here, and I will slip stitch in it, chain 1, and single crochet. And then I will chain 3 And my next chain space is here, so I'll place a single crochet there, and I'll repeat that around. Now I've placed a single crochet in the last chain space, so I will chain 3 one more time and slip stitch in my beginning stitch, which is right here. You can see that here's the last stitch of 2 rounds below, and this is my slip stitch, chain 1, and single crochet in the first chain space. So I will place my slip stitch here. And that was round 4. So now with round 5, it's going to be just the same, except we'll be doing chain 4 spaces. So I will slip stitch in the first chain space, chain 1, single crochet, and then I'll chain 4, single crochet in the next chain space. Ideally, you want to try to place the single crochet in the middle of the chain space, not to one side or the other. So single crochet there, and then I'll chain 4 again, and I'll be repeating that around. Okay, so this is the first stitch of the round, and I placed my last, I'm sorry, I think I said that wrong. This is my first single crochet of the round. This is my last single crochet of the round, and I've done the chain 4, so now I'll slip stitch to the first stitch to join. And then I'll be doing one more round that is like this. So round 6 is going to be just like the previous rounds, except I'll be doing a chain 5. So I will slip stitch in the first chain space, chain 1, single crochet, and hopefully that's getting me pretty close to the middle of that chain space. And then I'll chain 5. And then I will slip stitch in the next chain, I'm sorry, single crochet in the next chain space about in the center of it, and chain 5 again, and then I'll be repeating that around. right, I have done the last single crochet of this round in this last chain space. This is the first single crochet of the round. I've done the chain 5 here, and I'll slip stitch in the first stitch to join. And that finishes row 6. So now we're going to change a little bit. We've done the flower center of the square. Now we're going to have to turn this circle into a square. So I have this little note here that in the remaining rows, the joining half double crochet stitches that you'll do at the very end of each round, they will count as a corner chain space. Okay, so now to turn this into a square, we will start with a chain 3, which doesn't count as a stitch, and then we're going to do 2 trebles, 2 double crochets, 2 half double crochets in the first chain space. So here's the chain 3. My first chain space is this one. For the trebles, I need to yarn over twice, go into the chain space and pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, oops, I missed a bit, yarn over and pull through 2 loops, and then I'll repeat that for the second treble stitch. And then 2 double crochet stitches. So for that, I'll yarn over once, into the chain space, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2, and yarn over and pull through 2. Repeat that for the second double crochet. And then I need 2 half double crochet stitches. So I'll yarn over, go into the chain space, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through all 3 loops, and do that again for the second half double crochet stitch. Okay, so we have short stitches on this side and tall stitches on this side. And then it says 7 single crochet in the next chain space. So here's my next chain space, 7 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And then I will have 2 half double crochets, 2 double crochets, and 2 trebles in the next chain space. So this is kind of the reverse of what we did here. We did this, and now over here we're going to do the reverse with the short stitches on this side and the tall stitches on this side. So I'll yarn over and go into this next chain space, pull up a loop, and go through all 3 loops. Repeat that for the second half double crochet stitch. And then yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over and through 2, and yarn over and through 2, and repeat that for another double crochet stitch. And now I have 2 trebles, so I'll yarn over twice, into the chain space, pull up a loop, yarn over through 2, yarn over through 2, and yarn over through 2, and then 1 more treble stitch here. And that brings me to here. So now I'll chain 2, and this note here tells me that that's going to be one of my corner chain spaces. So I'll take this out. Maybe you can kind of see that what we've done here is I've made one side of the square. I have taller stitches on the corners to help make this as straight across as I can. So this is going to be one side of my square. I'm making a corner chain space here, and then in the next chain space I'll have 2 trebles, 2 double crochets, 2 half double crochets in the next chain space. So that's the same thing we did up here. And then I'll be repeating those things around. So in this, I'll be using these next 3 chain spaces to make the next side of the square. There will be tall stitches here, the trebles, and then there'll be single crochets here, and then again I'll be coming back out here and making the trebles on this side again. So each 3 chain spaces are going to form one side of the square. So I have this corner chain 2 space made, and now I will treble here, and I'll be repeating what I did for this side around my circle to turn it into a square. Now I've completed the second side of the square, so you can see now over here this corner chain space and how we're looking a little more squared on these 2 sides that I've done. So now we'll do the next side, beginning with a treble in this next chain space. Now I have the third side complete, so I have 2 corners here that you can see, and the chain 2 of the next corner space over here. It doesn't look, you know, real straight on the sides yet, but it will by the time we finish it. Okay, so now I'm ready to do the 4th side, beginning with a treble in this next chain space. All right, I have done all of my repeats. Your last time through, you'll be ending the repeat at this double star, and so that's, you'll have just finished those 2 trebles when you come to the end of the last repeat, and then you'll join to the first stitch with a half double crochet. That may seem a little odd, but I'll explain that. So here's my last treble, and I will yarn over, and my top of my first stitch is right here. This is my chain 3 that doesn't count as a stitch. So right here I will pull through and then yarn over and go through all 3 loops. Making this half double crochet here, it really winds up looking quite a bit like a chain 2, and the nice thing about it is that it basically means that I can start the next round in the center of the corner chain space instead of on this side of it. That allows me to start my rounds in a way that I don't have a real visible join. So that's the reason for joining that way. Okay, so now if I kind of stretch this out, you can see my 4 corner chain spaces, and you can see this pretty flower shape in the middle that does look quite a lot like a chrysanthemum, which is a nice fall flower. Okay, so that finishes round 7, and we should have 60 stitches and 4 corner chain spaces, noting that this join with the half double crochet, that's going to count as a corner chain space as well. For round 8, we'll start with chain 1, single crochet in the corner chain space, and then single crochet in each stitch across to the next corner chain space. Then in the corner chain space, we single crochet, chain 2, and single crochet, and we'll repeat that around. So we'll start with chain 1, single crochet here in the first chain space, and then you're just going to single crochet in every stitch across to the next corner chain space. I've worked across to the chain space, so now I will single crochet, chain 2, and single crochet in the chain space, and then I'll single crochet in each stitch across to the next corner chain space and work that same set of stitches, and I'll be repeating that all the way around this row, or this round. Now I'm at the end of round 8 here. I'm back at the chain space, where the corner chain space where I started. I just put a single crochet in the last treble here. I'll place one more single crochet in this corner chain space, and then I'll half double crochet in the first stitch to join. And then round 9 is very similar to round 8, except we'll be doing double crochets instead of singles. So I'll start with a chain 2, which does not count as a stitch. Double crochet in the corner chain space, double crochet in each stitch across to the next corner chain space, then double crochet, chain 2, double crochet in the corner chain space, and repeat that around. So I will chain 2, place one double crochet stitch right here in this corner chain space, and then I will double crochet in each stitch across to the next corner chain space. So here's the final double crochet of this side. Now in the corner, I will double crochet, chain 2, and double crochet. And then I will double crochet in each stitch across to the next corner and repeat that around. All right, I've placed a double crochet in the last single crochet of this round. I'll place one more double crochet in this chain space, and then I will join to my first stitch with a half double crochet, and that finishes round 9. So let's kind of take a look at where we are here. If we stretch this out, it's looking pretty good, pretty nice and square. Still a little bit of ruffling there. Okay, the very last round is round 10, and it's a repeat of round 8. So it's this single crocheting around, single crocheting in every stitch, and then in the chain spaces at the corners, single crochet, chain 2, and single crochet. So it's going to be just like round 8. Chain 1, single crochet here in the chain space, and then single crochet across this side to the next corner. All right, I have placed a single crochet in the last stitch of this round, so now I'll single crochet in this chain space and half double crochet in the first stitch to join it, and then I will fasten off. I was working from a small ball here, and I've got some extra, so I will trim that off. Okay, so let's look at our finished mum square. You will notice, if yours are like mine, that they aren't sitting flat right off your hook. don't worry about that. Because this square is lace in the middle, it is naturally going to need stretching in order to reach its full size. And when you stretch it out a little bit so that the center is nice and open, it does flatten out those sides. I don't feel that you need to block your blanket squares. When you join them to the squares next to them, the other squares will help pull the sides out straight and open them up. You can block them if you would like to. I did block one of mine to take nice pictures of it, but blocking in general for your blanket squares is not essential. So that is the Mum Crochet Blanket Square. This is part of my Fall Feels throw, and we're doing a crochet along for this blanket and the squares. If you want to know more about the crochet along, you can click the card up in this corner or check the description for a link to where you can find all the details about the crochet along. I hope you all have a lovely day.